What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Zen of Story. And today we're going to be looking at two movies that were inevitably going to be compared to each other. We're going to be looking at 2018's Searching and compare it to the recently released Malayalam thriller See You Soon. As soon as the first trailer for See You Soon released, everybody was talking about, could this be a loose remake of Searching? 2018 Searching, directed by Aneesh Chaganty, was a blockbuster hit. Even though it was made on a low budget, its storytelling, its acting, everything about the movie just worked really well, including the themes and the final story that was revealed. And so when we saw the trailer of See You Soon, the excitement was definitely there, because not only was it being produced by Fahad Faasil and his entire team, the director was Mahesh Narayanan, and he last directed Take Off, which was a huge hit among the Malayali audiences, and so the expectations were definitely very high. Now, instead of doing a traditional review of just the one movie, I thought this would be a great opportunity to take both films that were set in pretty much the same style of filmmaking and see how they compare to each other, because perhaps there could be something we could learn about their style of storytelling. And the whole reason I wanted to do that is the goal of this channel is to ultimately understand what it is that makes certain stories better than others. What is it about certain stories that elevates them to a great story? Well, both of them employ a filmmaking style where the entire movie is shown to the audience through the use of screens. I mean, anything that has a screen or a camera, a phone, a tablet, a laptop, anything that has a screen is used to convey the story without the use of traditional cameras. And so this very virtual filmmaking style, I'm not even sure if that's the name for it, but I'm just going to call it virtual filmmaking. The entire use of this virtual filmmaking is relatively new to the industry and quite groundbreaking in its concept. Both movies were shot on a very low budget. The producer of See You Soon, Fahad Faasil himself, him and his friends, I think they just rented a couple of flats and shot the entire film in 18 days, which on its own is quite a feat to talk about, because it completely changes the style of what filmmaking can be. It completely changes the idea of what filmmaking can mean for a young filmmaker who's just trying to break into the industry, because all of a sudden it's quite clear that you don't need any fancy equipment to break into the industry and create a groundbreaking film. And in terms of the subject matter, both stories actually follow a relatively similar plot in terms of a main character searching for a missing person, and in the process of that, revealing something much larger, much deeper, that's buried underground. Now, as soon as you're in a situation where the resources to tell this particular story is very limited, and this is the case with both Searching and See You Soon, you need really strong actors to be able to convey the plot and the story in a convincing way. Now, John Cho carries the entire movie in 2018's Searching. If he's acting as the father in search of his missing daughter is phenomenal. He's very realistic in his portrayal and very relatable as a character, and I think he carries the movie really well. And the acting in See You Soon is equally good. I think Fahad Faasil does a great job, as he always does. I mean, the man is killing it these days with his roles. Every role he's doing is turning out to be a memorable role. Roshan Matthews as well does a great job in his role. I think he has a very realistic portrayal of his character, and I'm really excited to see where he goes. I love the fact that he is not afraid to do almost any role in any movie. I really think he's a talent that will probably take over the Malayali industry very soon. But if we are going to talk about the acting of this movie in See You Soon, you cannot forget about Darshana Rajendran's performance in the movie. She completely knocks it out of the park. Every scene that she is in, she steals the show. And I think she acts circles around the other co-stars. And with her serving as the emotional anchor to the story, I think she does a great job at making her character not only relatable, but also showing the struggles that she had to go through to get to where she is. But now let's actually talk about the differences in the two movies, which is what I really want to get into, because that's when we start to understand how a storytelling choice can literally define the ending of a story. However, we can't actually talk about the differences between the two movies without diving into spoilers. So if you haven't seen both movies, I'll suggest you stop the video right now, go and watch those movies and then come back to the video. You have been warned. Or alternatively, I've included timestamps below and you can just click on those timestamps right to the end of the video to get the ratings of how the two movies compare. Where these two movies really go in different directions is the third act of both movies. 2018's Searching is a movie about a father going off in search of his missing daughter, and he has to use whatever resources and information he has at his fingertips to ultimately find a way to find his daughter. But what's crucial about the way Searching is told is that the entire point of view, the POV, is focused on John Cho's character, the father character. And most importantly, the main character of the father makes very active decisions all throughout the plot of the story. In fact, the actual events of the story happen because of the information that the father receives. The father is the most active character in that story. He literally defines where the story goes, and so it's a great example of plot coming from the character. And as we all know, whenever plot does naturally and organically come from the main character, that's always a recipe for great storytelling. Now, on the other hand, with the movie See You Soon, the POV or the point of view actually changes from the main character, who initially seemed to be Roshan Matthews' character, and then shifts about halfway through or closer to the third act to Fahad Faasil's character. Roshan Matthews is a young man who falls in love with the character Darshana plays, and eventually when she goes missing, he needs the help of his cousin, who is Fahad Faasil's character, to basically find out what happened to her. And so I suppose that's why eventually halfway through the movie we get Fahad taking the center stage of where the events of the story is going to go. However, in See You Soon, the entire third act of the movie feels like one giant exposition dump. It's just information after information after information that is revealed to us. And yes, it is revealed to us through the actions of Fahad, where he actually goes and searches deeply about Darshana's character. And so we get an entire sequence of Fahad's character finding out a lot of information about Darshana's character, about who she is, about her predicament, about where she's coming from. And it seems like that particular reveal is going to define and shape where the story is going to go, and Fahad is going to play an active role in changing the dynamic of the entire story. But then what happens is, once we get this entire reveal, Fahad's character gets a phone call from Roshan Matthews' character, who apparently got a phone call from his mother explaining all the same things that we already saw through Fahad. So everything that Fahad learns about Darshana's character, somehow the mother also found out about and already told to Roshan Matthews' character. So it just made me question as to then what was the real use of Fahad doing all those things? What was the point of his actions, and will this really change anything then? If he didn't do the things he did, it probably wouldn't have changed the entire plot in a drastic way. And so it was a great example of the director deliberately putting a character in a certain position so that he could show information to the audience without it feeling like an organic thing that the character was doing, without it feeling like the character would find this information and use this information to drive the story in a particular direction. The plot didn't quite come from the character, the plot was forcing the character to do a certain thing. And so that's why I think the two movies differ in their final approaches to how they end their stories. Now, you could argue that Fahad's character starts off as a selfish character and then he goes through this journey of understanding the consequences of his actions, and as a result, once he receives all this information about Darshana's character, he's a somewhat changed person, and he wants to now relay that information to Roshan Matthews' character. But I think it would have been a lot more powerful if we could see Fahad's character doing something a lot more active and defining the trajectory of where the story goes, rather than just relaying a piece of information to Roshan's character. And so even though See You Soon did a great job at setting up the premise, the rules of the story, and the things that we were going to be exploring, ultimately it fell a little flat towards the ending because it didn't quite show us what the main character was capable of doing. And so with Searching, because we have such a tight point of view focused on the father character, as he literally goes on this journey searching for his daughter, we realize that the entire story is not just about him going off and searching and finding his daughter. But because of the way he starts to understand information about where his daughter was going, about her friends, what she was up to, eventually it becomes a story about a father reconnecting with his daughter. But because See You Soon decides to shift the POV from one character to another, the final emotional impact of the story is a little diminished. And we don't have a main character who goes on a very powerful, strong internal journey, which we did get in the movie Searching. And so ultimately, while both movies do a great job at creating very riveting thrillers, Searching does a much better job at creating an emotional story versus See You Soon, where it felt like they're trying too hard to make us care about the characters or trying too hard to get the emotion out of the audience. Whereas if they just focused on a tighter angle on the main character, I think it would have already done that for itself. That's why See You Soon, though it is a great addition to Mahesh Narayanan's repertoire of films, I think it does fall a little flat in the emotional story that it's telling, and therefore I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Whereas Searching does a great job at not only creating a thriller, but also showing a very strong emotional journey of the main character. And therefore, Searching I would give an 8 out of 10. And so there you have it, guys. I really wanted to just compare these two different stories because they are set in the same setting, filmed in a very similar style, and therefore it was a great opportunity to put these two together and learn about what does one do that the other doesn't, and so that ultimately at the end of the day we can learn from that and tell better stories ourselves. I would definitely recommend you go check out See You Soon. It's amazing to see the Malayalam film industry continue to be as experimental and daring as they are. I think they definitely are the most experimental industry in India right now, maybe even in the world. And I can't wait to see what Mahesh Narayanan as a director comes up with next. He's definitely somebody who has an eye for really creative, original ways of telling a story. Alright, so that's what I thought of the two movies, See You Soon and Searching, and how they compare to each other, what one does that the other doesn't. What did you guys think of the movies? Let me know in the comments below. And if you guys love storytelling as much as I do, if you're as passionate about story theory as much as I am, do subscribe for more videos. As always, thanks so much for watching. Keep exploring great storytelling, keep creating, and I will catch you on the next video. Cheers.